Hello, Warren here again with the Peach State Prime Transformers channel. And in this video, we're taking a look at the recently announced G2 Menasor box set by Takara Tomy. It's not an official, Transformers Tuesday drop. However, this week, I will be unavailable to record a video, as close to Transformers Tuesday as I normally have been. So there's a chance this could very well be the drop for Tuesday. However, it has already gone up for pre-order on BBTS or Big Bad Toy Store. So I figured we'd talk about this this reveal and kind of this development for this week as far as our new product listing. So first off, as I said, it is a G2 Menasor and box set by Takara Tomy. There has been some upset in the fandom over this, obviously, because so far we've received over the course of the last 2 to 3 years only 3 of the 5 Stunticons so far that would merge to form Menasor. And let me show those to you real quick. I have those on my desk here. Alright, so these are the 3 that have been released so far. Of course, we have Breakdown over here in the blue and purple. Breakdown, of course, being the standout so far because it is based on those same colors that are on that legendary very first BotCon exclusive. It was an unproduced product, or the Stunticons were an unproduced product, but Hasbro had enough breakdowns to provide the organizers of that first BotCon in 1994 with them to give to attendees. Or to make available to attendees. So, of course, that one's, is always very highly sought after, even as an individual figure. Then we got Drag Strip in the middle, aka Shadow Strip for this release. And then we have Dead End over here in the red, mostly red and a little bit of blue and gray. And these have looked great so far. I like having them as individual standard releases, just standing on my shelf as is, yet alone combined into Menasor. So with Dead End, Breakdown, and Drag Strip being the releases or the repaints of existing Stunticons into G2 colors, obviously that left 2 others. That left Wildrider, and then, of course, Motormaster, kind of the core bot, for this version of Menasor. It's kind of that frame system where Motormaster becomes the overall frame, and then you kind of plug and connect the 4 other Stunticons, the deluxe classes, with Menasor being a commander class. So this release does have fans divided from what I've seen on social media, simply because, they have 3/5 of this release already, and they'd love to be able to get a Motormaster and a Wildrider separately. And, I think Hasbro wouldn't have that much difficulty getting a, Wildrider out there as a deluxe. I think that real sticking point has been getting a Commander class exclusive out there, with those currently retailing typically for right at $100 or above $100. So I think that's the sticking point. Hopefully, Hasbro will be able to fulfill this for other fans who already have the 3 other figures. I'm not going to sit here and bash them. This is not a Hasbro release. Again, it may go up on Pulse. I'm expecting it to, as most Takara Tomy releases do. But I personally did not buy the first release of the new Stunticons. You know, I think they look great. My older son has them. You know, I'm not gonna defend the Combiner Wars version that I do have, because it certainly has some room for improvement. However, I just at the time did not have the money to invest, even though it was broken up. So I figured I'd go the route of collecting the G2 version, you know, because it's something completely different. Because let's be honest, there never was a true G2 Menasor released at retail. Again, there was the whole thing with Breakdown and BotCon 94, but the whole thing was never officially released. So I find it interesting. Again, we even went this route first. I guess it was the first of the new combiners, though, the new version of them. So I guess that's why he's getting the treatment first over, let's say, the Aerial Bots, because the Aerial Bots had that G2 release. So there's a little bit more probably nostalgia for Superion. And I could see that coming if this sells well for Takara Tomy, doing a you know, a Superion box set. But anyways, that's enough background to this figure. Let's take a look at it a little bit more closely. So again, I'm looking at the pictures on BBTS, and gonna look at them individually here first. So first we're looking at Wildrider. Wildrider, I think, looks great. You know, he's all yellow. We haven't seen this mold in these colors yet, or anything similar. You know, he got his name on the side in robot mode there, just like a G2 release would have. I think he looks pretty cool. I'm not sure that's an interesting kind of design on his on the top of the car there. You know, I guess it kind of resembles a sticker of sorts, but you know, it does look G2-esque. So you know, I think that's pretty cool there. Then we have Breakdown. Now, Breakdown, you know, to be fair, these do have somewhat different decos than what Hasbro's already released. You know, I like the accents of purple in the vehicle mode there around the wheel wells. And then, you know, it looks to be a little bit lighter in color. I could be wrong. Again, these are just pictures, not in person. I do like the sticker on the top of the car there with that little bit of like that liquid kind of look. So again, very, very 90s looking. Then we get the Drag Strip. Again, was released as Shadow Strip here in the US as a Walmart exclusive. I believe it was for the Velocitron line. You can see the deco is much more detail on this release. You got kind of the gold on the side in the vehicle mode there. A bit more detail on the spoiler there. And you got that big old G2 logo. So again, this is different enough to where you could justify getting both the US, if it's ever finished, releases, or if you already have the ones that came out. You know, and this Takara one. All right, next we have Dead End. And again, similar to what came out in the US, but a little different, a little bit more detail in the paint apps, especially in vehicle mode. On the doors there, and of course, the top of the car, you have Dead End written. Again, very, you know, very much like a G2 release we would have had. And then let's get to the real star of the show here. Let's get to Motormaster. You know, I think this looks beautiful in the most 90s garish way possible. So you have that big old G2 Decepticon logo on top of the cab there, followed by, you know, this gear design on the blue trailer, and of course you have that purple cab there. You have his name on the side. You look at the robot mode, and it's just all those characteristics carry over onto his arms, and of course his we'll call him his knees there. I think he looks great. Again, this would be an awesome standalone release, yet alone being a combiner. And then let's look at the combine mode. It's exactly what you would expect. And he has that big old gun there with the, some of the, what was it going? The gear pattern on it from Motormaster. And I think he looks great. He's still using that frame system. So again, you see the backs of the cars from the rear on the legs. Or the car parts more on the rear of the legs. That's better, say it that way. And then, of course, on the sides of the arms there, you have drag strip and, of course, dead end. But yeah, I think this looks great. I love the teal fists and feet. Very 90s. Again, I like, the original Menasor colors are a little drab, especially on Motormaster. You got basically black and gray, which, yeah, it's indicative of the character. It's G1, and I'm not knocking it, but this really makes it pop more on your shelf. So G2 was always a lot of fun for that. So let's talk price. Price is $279.99 on Big Bad Toy Store, and they got that $28 non-refundable deposit, which again, all tied to the tariff pricing and all that, and not my favorite thing out there again. But this is expected out first quarter 2027, which is a bit away, considering we're only in April of 2026. Price I don't think is bad. If you price it out, let's mark up the deluxes, again, stateside, to $30 each, and, let's put about $100 on Motormaster, even though it's probably more like $120 now, let's be honest. So, I mean, you're looking at, $220 to $240, if this was sold individually stateside, and again, that's assuming Motormaster is about $120 now, or $100 to $120. This is a Japanese release, being Takara Tomy, plus you got the extra paint apps, and it's a box set. $280 is right on the mark. Let me just be honest. I'm not going to complain about that price at all. For getting a Japanese release, premium deco, box set, like I said, and then you're already at, roughly around $220 to $240 stateside, $40 more is not bad at all. So I think this will look awesome on shelves. I'm personally not pre-ordering quite yet. It's just, got to budget a little bit here and there. But, if I could pick this up a little bit later on, I think that I may do so. If I'm at maybe Toylanta or another toy show or convention and I have the funds, it's not bad. Of course, I still am holding out hope that Hasbro will complete the G2 Stunticons in their own version here in the States. And so, fingers crossed there. But, again, I don't fault Takara for doing this. I assume Hasbro Pulse will carry it. But hopefully it's not Hasbro's only answer to completing this figure for those who've already bought 3 figures. But, even besides that, they just make great figures otherwise. So anyways, that's G2 Menasor, the box set coming from Takara Tomy. Getting up for pre-order on BBTS right now. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to give it a like here on YouTube. And of course, leave a comment. What do you think about this release? Do you think this negates the collectors who have bought the other 3? Do you think Hasbro will complete them? Do you think this is a good deal? Just sound off your thoughts in the comments there. And of course, subscribe for more Transformers content like this and several other topics and reviews. And I do have my other original channel, just simply called Peach State Prime, for more fun, including tourist attractions, special events, fun places to eat and shop, including collectible stores, and showing off my other parts of my collection. anyways, so you can check that out over there. But again, I thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you have a great day, and God bless.